Hello and welcome back to Get Financially Fit with me, Debbie Hancock. Now, this podcast is about helping business owners feel more confident with the numbers and creating businesses that actually serve their lives, not the other way around. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter how sharp your finances are if nobody knows you exist, or if your marketing feels like you're chucking stuff at a wall and hoping something sticks. We all know what that is like, don't we? So today we're digging into a topic I know confuses and overwhelms a lot of business owners. Marketing. More specifically, I can never say that word. More specifically, what on earth is fractional marketing? Is it another fad, and why should you care? To help us unravel it all, I'm joined by the brilliant Ashley from Vaandi. Hi, Ashley.
Good morning. Hi. The weird and wonderful word of fractional. What does it mean?
Yes, exactly. So Ashley is a fractional marketing consultant who's here to help businesses show up confidently online and build marketing strategies that actually work. And crucially, fit into the way that you run your business. We're going to chat about what fractional means, why more businesses are choosing to bring in a specialist part-time support, how marketing and finance can work hand in hand, and why it might be one of the smartest investments a business can make when they're recalibrating or scaling. So let's dive in. Ashley, for anyone who hasn't come across you yet, give us a quick who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Thank you very much. So I am a marketing consultant. The fractional element, it's very much designed to respond to workplace trends. People and organizations and decision makers are holding back on hiring full-time positions, and the fractional element comes in where they can access that sort of high level expertise without the sort of burden of a full-time hire. And certainly with the sort of rise in insurance liabilities, I'm sure everyone's aware of those, it's an opportunity to adapt to allow businesses to still access that sort of expertise. For me, I'm very much there when they need and not when they don't. That's the fractional element. And I provide marketing, communication strategies, implement those strategies within the business, and to a point where when they're ready to hire a full-time or part-time resource, I then move on and work with the next client. So it's the fractional element, although it's very sort of still quite new. People ask what it's about. It is just being responsive to sort of the market trends, being sort of part-time for businesses to be able to access that high-level expertise.
Yeah, and that's the same with the fractional director. There's obviously a heavy cost that comes with heavy costs and heavy risks that comes with employing a finance director or a marketing person full time in house. And actually, if a business is scaling and they're in like 1 to 5 million round turnover, they're not necessarily going to need someone full time, and they don't necessarily want to take on the risk of all the costs associated with that full time person. So, from a finance perspective, as always, we're monitoring the costs and the profitability of a business. It makes perfect sense that we would start with fractional support. And fractional is one of those words, isn't it? I think it came over from America, very popular over there.
Yes.
And how are you seeing businesses shift more to this fractional sort of part time support?
So yes, I believe when you have that conversation about how the fractional side of the partnership can work for the business and as the sort of the expert as well, they understand how it's going to work. I think it's just breaking down those sort of the terminology, the wordings, because not everyone understands and not everyone's got time to be able to understand all these sort of new words and fads or whatever you want to call it. It's a response to what's happening in the sort of the hiring space. So yeah, what you just give them time. It's not about educating them, it's just giving them the sort of awareness of that this is how we can help, or I can help, you can help. And once you give them the time to be able to understand that and the breathing space, it's like I can see how that's going to work for businesses. And there's no sort of heavy commitments when you take on an employee. You've got the sort of certain processes that you go through, the probationary period or the hire, all those sorts of things. You can take that out of the partnerships when you're taking on the fractional support, and it eases a lot of the sort of concerns that I think businesses have when taking on an additional hire, outsourcing, or whatever it may be.
Cool. Thank you. So, what kind of challenges are you seeing from businesses that you work with when it comes to marketing and getting noticed in this like online crazy world?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge, it's AI. As a marketing person and actually creative as well, we are really finding it very difficult to justify our existence and our need for businesses at the moment, because a lot of individuals, decision makers and directors believe there's an opportunity to harness AI for their business without taking on any additional resource or expertise. Now, what I believe is missed is that they need someone behind AI to be driving those tools to make it work. The prompting, the tech setup, the automation. There's so much more that goes behind the scenes with AI. It's not a case of just tapping into Chat GPT and saying, create a marketing strategy for my business. I mean, it's great. It will come up with something, I'm sure, and it does. But you need to drive the sort of the prompt and making sure. And you've got to be careful about what sort of information you're feeding into ChatGPT, whether it's sensitive data, information. There's so much to it, and I believe that as marketers and creatives, we need to get in front of AI, understand what type of tools are going to work best for our clients and the industry as a whole, so that we are prepared to stand in front of it, rather than it's almost keeping us sort of at the back and saying, hey, you're not needed now, we're AI is taking over, which
Yeah.
it's not. It's tool. They are tools there. But that's certainly a challenge that I am getting from prospective clients that are saying, we probably got a solution with AI, so we don't need you right now. But there will come a time where they will say, actually, we do need your support. So that's certainly a challenge I'm seeing at the moment.
Well, it's like in finance, AI can do so much. It can give you kind of the tactical side of things, but in terms of like personalized strategy for your business, AI cannot yet do that in terms of finance or in terms of marketing. Because when we go into a business, when I go into a business, and I'm sure the same as you, we spend our time not only getting to know the business, but getting to know the CEO and the C suite in the business and really understanding what they're trying to do with the business, how they're going to drive it forward, and what they want from it personally. Because to me, that's really important. What do you personally want from a business? And AI cannot know that. It can give you a standard strategy, like, I don't know, I'm not a marketing expert. Post on social media this many
So,
times, have a
yeah.
podcast, do this. That's not a strategy. A strategy is really what aligns to what the business is trying to achieve and what it's trying to drive. I see the point of AI and I do see the use of it, and I do use it in terms of helping me to get things out of like the podcast. But
Yeah.
like, it's not taking over our jobs just yet in terms of strategy, I don't believe.
But it's a tool to aid businesses. And I really do believe that AI is there to help level the playing field between those that are potentially struggling with the costs associated with hiring, and they just can't work. The budgets aren't there to be able to hire the resource. So there is opportunity there to leverage AI and to help businesses automate, to streamline where it's needed. There's so many opportunities there, but they need to access the right level of expertise and support for them to be able to understand that. There's a lot of misconceptions about AI, and we are living in that sort of environment of fear, and we look for support and guidance. And as soon as we read a press article, there's something about AI that, again, it's the fear of losing jobs. It is happening. I've got to admit, the job market is falling, certainly in the sort of, I don't know what it's like in the sort of finance space, but certainly in the sort of creative and marketing space, it's falling because people at the moment believe that AI offers a solution, done for you solution. I don't have to do anything for it, but it will all sort of level out. But yeah, there's potential there, I believe, to just level the playing field, because costs is such a big thing. Everyone is struggling with their own costs as individuals, as business owners, and there is the opportunity there when you use it right and have the right sort of expertise to help balance things out.
Yeah, and we have different levels of businesses. Like, certain businesses would not employ me as a fractional finance director because I would just be out of the out of the reach at present, but that doesn't mean in the future that wouldn't be the case. So, from my side as a fractional finance director, I often see business owners holding back on marketing, either because they don't trust it, or they've wasted money before. So, how do you help them to build that confidence around marketing decisions and spending on marketing?
Yeah, the part of my rebranding was to work on what clients, past, present, and conversations I've had, what they find most difficult about investing in marketing, or what are they so adverse to investing in sort of expertise. And there's the potential for risk of reputation. Are they using, or other marketers using techniques that don't quite align with the values of the organization? Um, Lead generation. There's the topics that have been used in the marketing sense that deceive customers to put pressure on them to buy products or services. There's a lot of sort of like manipulation, a lot of sort of kind of tactics that I believe sit with decision makers and directors, and they feel, I don't want to be part of that. So actually, we're not going to invest in marketing. We'll get someone from the wider team to look at something that can potentially manage that without damaging the reputation or their sort of client base.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
it's
I was going to say, yeah, I know, from my point of view, there's certain tactics used in the marketing industry that I've felt like I don't feel aligned with, or abusing NLP to sort of feels like manipulate people. So it's finding, it's one understanding, is your mindset blocking you? And actually, is it something like, I don't want to go on camera, I don't want to do this? Or is it that you don't agree with the ethics behind certain marketing rules, and you actually just need to find something that aligns with what you think and your values, and then use that marketing expert to help you kind of overcome the mindset stuff and then start doing it. Like, this is your first podcast. I started this back in October, November. So we're putting ourselves out there and trying different stuff.
You got to. An example, I spoke to someone recently that's had through several sort of businesses in the sort of fintech world and has restructured, and looking at several different sort of propositions, working with different sort of clients. And essentially he uses chat GBT for help and guidance when it comes to articulating what it is he wants to say across social media. There's a backlash, and I don't know whether it comes from sort of copywriters or people that fear for their own jobs, but people are putting a lot of pressure on those that do use the likes of AI and chat GPT to help bring their voice to a wider audience. Don't feel we should be putting any sort of shame on anyone that uses an aid or tool to bring their voice to a wider audience, to better themselves, because they're those that struggled with writing, with grammar. I mean, there's so many people out there that can just pertain to be the sort of kind of the expert and the grammar police and all those sorts of things. And it's essentially you're you're muting people that want to share something to their audience, or share it in a sort of bigger sort of sense. And if we can utilize those tools to get our voice across, then so be it. I think there's a fine line to where you're deceiving clients and customers, that you are being authentic and using chat GPT to write everything for you as if it's, your own tone of voice, and just create sort of 7 posts per week using my tone of voice, and then put it on social media, and then making people believe that that's their genuine thoughts. There's a space for that sort of connection. We need to have that connection. But I think with businesses, and when you're talking about a sort of business, a brand, and talking to a wider audience, there's a place for chat GPT. I can never say it, but yeah, I think there's a balance there. I think we need these tools, and we should utilize those tools because we've used tools throughout our career that have helped us become better people and specialize in that expertise. But you just got to be mindful about the intent that you're using some of these tools. And I think that's going to be a challenge for the marketing world because people are tired of being lied to or manipulated or having to kind of question the truth. Is this truthful? Do I need that sort of pressure
Yeah.
from a marketing campaign? So
Well, the scary thing is, I was going to say, actually, that's why I like talking and doing the podcast, because I feel my personality comes across a lot better. And if someone, if I'm going to go into a business as a fractional finance director, they're going to have to know how I talk and what I'm like. And when I've tried using these tools before, they correct my grammar, they take out my Londonness, like they just
yeah,
clean it all. And I'm like, oh,
knows.
oh no. But the scary thing is, actually, I listened to this podcast a couple months ago, and it was an AI tool had taken the person's previous podcasts, used their words, taken the topic, and then it sounded like the person had recorded a podcast, but it was AI. I was like, oh my God, like you can literally use it everywhere now, or you can even create videos, believe. I don't know how you do it
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
AI tools.
VEO3 is just killing it in terms of creating videos that look so authentic, and you would question whether AI was involved at all. At all, it
Oh.
is scary.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, oh, would you encourage the businesses you're working with to kind of use more video-based marketing because it creates that more authentic connection? But I guess if AI is then coming in and creating videos as well, maybe that isn't the
Well,
case.
it's working with a purpose. It's if you're an individual trying to try not to use the word personal brand, but as an individual, we have a style, we have a reason people are attracted to us on social media platforms. And I believe that is a place for having that sort of authentic dialogue with your audience. And, if you put in a sort of, a punctuation in the wrong space, or if you're, you know, person that likes to kind of use some form of, swear or whatever it is, if that makes it clear that the people can connect with you and that's how you talk in person, then that's where you should really be utilizing that sort of one-on-one. It doesn't matter how you write. Don't format the sort of the soul out of it. Just talk. And I think that's where people say, write how you talk. Yes, there is a place for that. And, if you're going to leave some space between sentences and pad it out, do it. It allows the reader to connect and not feel overwhelmed. But with businesses, and when you're talking about sort of business brand, business communications, I do believe there's a place for that sort of utilizing AI to help with that, whether it's the research, whether it's creating documents, analyzing reports. That helps businesses with productivity and can free up a lot of time for organizations and businesses to allow their sort of subject matter experts to be focusing on something else. So there's a place for both, but AI can't just solve all your problems. It can't take away that sort of human connection. We hear about it so much, but it's so true. And I think what you're doing with the podcast and allowing people to see who you are, your style, that's powerful, and people want to be able to kind of connect with people on that level. Yeah.
So I think that finance and marketing should work together a lot more and have a lot more conversations than they typically do in businesses. So from our side, it's important to align sort of marketing activity and budgets and finance plans with the strategy. Do you see that in businesses where they're actually bringing the C-suite together and working together? So marketing and finance, strategy and budgets, and aligning everything forward.
Like to say yes. I believe there's still a sort of space where finance has its sort of, forgive me, this is just my own sort of relationship with finance in the past, but finance sit very much a lot closer to the sort of C-suite and decision making. And I believe there is a space for that sort of marketing to be able to get together with finance and just start talking about the potentials of sort of when you're talking about budgets, when you're talking about investment into sort of tech and kit for the organization, there's a space to understand both worlds. And I don't know whether it's happening as much as it should be, but I think having sort of conversations about actually going down this particular route will save an organization so much money. Understand the world that I'll use AI again, but has the potential to be able to reduce much more costs and I guess marketing, understanding the finance world a lot more. So, the two maybe need to understand each other's world more and
Mhm.
not have that sort of competitive. I can't quite articulate. It's been a while
Yeah.
since I was
So
in sort of corporate space.
finance are saying, stop spending, and marketing are going, but we
Spending.
need this.
But all this lovely new tech that would then revolutionize so many departments, it's the return on investment is incredible. But yeah, it's just I think from my own experience, I think there's still potential there for the two worlds to come together and understand each other's world and work together. So
Yeah.
there's absolutely potential.
I think actually actually that's quite good that I've like started my own business, because when I started my own business, I told you this earlier, honestly, I wasn't even on social media. I deleted all my apps. I had no idea what marketing did. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go and discover. So, actually, what I've spent years doing is doing marketing programs, working with a marketing mentor whilst growing the brand in my business. And so, as a finance director, I actually understand the world of marketing a lot more than most, because I had to do it. I had no choice. So it allows me to actually understand what you guys do more. So when business owners are growing their business, what should they be looking for when it's like, now is the time to bring in a fractional marketing consultant? What's the trigger that they should be looking for?
When your teams are screaming out that they can't possibly take on anymore, or where you are having conversations that you come up against a brick wall, we don't know how to move on from this, or we don't know how to grow to scale without utilizing the sort of some of these marketing strategies. We can't build it ourselves. That's when people need to start asking. We need to outsource. We need to start speaking to the experts. Now, I mentioned at the beginning with the conversation and the sort of pushback sometimes is, we don't actually want or we can't afford to take on that sort of FTE and that commitment yet. But actually, it's getting the sort of the conversations out there that there are. You can really utilize the sort of fractional side of the expertise to be able to take on someone and have that sort of relaxed sort of relationship, utilize the expertise, and you get to a point where okay, we are looking in the not sort of next 6 to 12 months, we could probably take on a part-time hire directly, but we're going to utilize your experience until we can get to that point. We're seeing the ROI already because, okay, the expertise is kicking in. Great, we can now start to kind of work towards getting that sort of the FTE or part-time or whatever into the business. So I think it's just having those sorts of kind of the evidence to say to decision makers and directors and whoever's making those calls about hiring that actually by having us in and having that flexible approach, we can get you to a point where you can hire someone into your business.
Yeah, it's
So,
funny,
so
isn't it? We're both in that position where our success ultimately sees us out of a job. That's what we're trying to achieve. We're coming in at a point where the business is growing. They've maybe just been doing things a bit haphazard. They've grown, very successful. Actually, just want a bit more structure, guidance, and strategy brought in. We help them grow and scale and whatever they want their business to do. And then they get to a point where they can have a full-time internal person, and we do ourselves out of a job. But to us, that's like we've done our
well
job.
done. And that's the pride that you get. It's like, great, because ultimately the fractional setup for us works because that's the decision that we've made for our business and our setup is that you go in, you help, you get them to a position where they no longer need us and, they can hire someone at whatever level they feel they need and they can still manage their sort of targets and whatever their objectives are. It's just like, that's fine. It works for us. Off we go. and repeat the process, but it works for us,
Yeah.
because we know it works. But it's just having those sort of conversations and actually having the right conversations with the right people and also to allow them to have enough time to not feel like it's a pressured sort of sales pitch, because it's not. You likely need help, or the client likely needs help. This is what we can do. This is how we can help, and this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I do often find that it does become quite panicked, especially when a finance director comes in. It's almost like, dear, we need to do this, we need to raise funds, we want to exit, we like our processes are a mess. And so what I wanted to do with the podcast was get people in like yourself who sit in other fractional roles. And so business owners can start to think, actually, what role do I need going forward, and plan it in? Do they need a CTO? So do they need a tech specialist? Do they need marketing, HR, cybersecurity, whatever it is? And they can plan ahead, especially from finance perspective. Like, there's a cost coming, we need to plan that in. And are you working more with like startups or smaller businesses or bigger firms, like in the millions region?
I originally felt more sort of aligned to work in the sort of finance, fintech, tech, that sort of side. But how it's gone is that I'm working with SMBs, small, medium-sized businesses now, because I see there's the opportunity for real sort of growth, and I can see how that's going to help. But it's just naturally happened. Even though the sort of a lot of the terminology that we talked about today might not always be familiar for the sort of SMB market, um, people are understanding the concept and how it can work for their business. So I'm starting to work with a lot more sort of either individuals or sort of kind of that small, medium-sized business setup where they kind of, we can't afford a marketing department, but we've got a marketing assistant doing absolutely everything from sort of graphic design to product implementation. There's the whole host of the marketing scale, and they feel overwhelmed. And it's again, it comes back to kind of providing the right sort of strategies to kind of enable their growth. And it's like, okay, I can come in, provide that sort of consultancy, the fractional side of it, and you then empower the individuals, whoever you've got in the team, to be able to manage the next steps. So
And so, can you share? So, key part of marketing is storytelling, isn't it? So, can you share a story of like how fractional marketing has made a real difference to a business that you've worked with?
I have a client where I've been able to come in at a very sort of we were talking a couple of hours a week, that originally started or for sort of social media marketing, but they've got a whole sort of marketing process engine, additionally, sitting. There's a lot of e-commerce, but they wanted sort of to test the sort of, I guess, the test the whatever it is, first of all, to see, look, okay, we need some support. We don't quite know what sort of support, but here's the sort of work on the social media marketing. And through that sort of relationship building, we've been able to grow up to, actually, we need a marketing expert here, but we can't be anywhere near the sort of kind of hiring someone at that sort of level. It's about getting that sort of relationship up, them understanding exactly how you work and what you could do, and then just gently having those conversations that actually, I believe the fractional marketing side of the proposition that I offer could really benefit you. And again, it's allowing them and that individual, that client, to get to that comfortable feeling that actually this is not going to cost me the world. So I'm working with the e-commerce business to just gradually work on the different elements of the sort of marketing that's happening at the moment. And it's been a gentle sort of work up to the sort of fractional support that they need. They are so busy that they can't think of everything in terms of all the marketing, because they're processing orders, they're building sort of relationship. It's just impossible for them. And so the trick I've work with that particular client is trying to kind of give them bits of information in sort of manageable chunks when they've got the time to digest it, and they start to see the benefit of you being that sort of the
Yeah.
fractional support. So
Yeah.
that's been a bit of a journey with that particular e-commerce client, gradual.
Yes, that's it. I think you get a lot of businesses, don't you? Business owners who grow their business and we wear all the hats and it all just starts mushing into one and things get dropped. I do find that, yeah, finance gets dropped a lot. A lot of business owners get overwhelmed with marketing and like the constant drive to post on social media. So that starts to get dropped. And that's kind of the red flag when it's like, it's probably time to bring someone in who can help and guide you and show you that maybe posting on social media 50 times a week isn't the answer.
But that's a whole new sort of
No,
topic conversation.
So, what's the most overused buzzword in marketing?
Authenticity. Be authentic. What does that mean? Or provide value. It's like, please, it's just people jump on words or jump on an expression and they will use it to death. And it's just like, but what does that mean for people? So, what does it mean to be authentic? What does it mean to provide value? Actually, just ask your clients, your audience, or whoever it is you're out there, you're building a relationship with. What is it that they want rather than telling them what you think that they need and jumping on these sort of buzzwords and trends? Because you just waste so much time. You've got to get into the DNA of your clients, your followers, or whoever it is that you're working with, and really understand what they need. And just forget about the buzzwords, forget about the sort of trends. It's just knowing your clients and knowing your audience. But honestly, the amount of buzzwords and just people typically on LinkedIn that will just say, you've got to provide value in every post and you've got to be authentic. It's like, what are you doing? You can see that they've used content from a sort of person, not another individual on social media, and they're just regurgitating the same information.
Yeah,
And I don't know if how you feel with it, but you start seeing it being said in every post, and you're just like,
you do.
oh,
Yeah,
give it up.
carbon copies. Carbon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
At the moment, what do you think's the most underrated marketing channel for businesses? Is LinkedIn still underrated, or are people jumping on board?
I honestly feel with social media, people are switching off from social media because we're tired. And I'll just say for myself, I'm tired of reading the same old rubbish and from the same people. And you said carbon copies. It feels like that. I'm talking about LinkedIn, but I look at sort of Instagram and Facebook. I'll isolate Instagram here because there's the ability to create content that potentially sells a sort of dream, sells a sort of idealistic sort of vision or whatever it is. But then it's like, yeah, but so does all the other reels and so do all the other sort of TikTok. Again, going over to TikTok. But there's just something a bit diluted and soulless about the content that we're seeing at the moment. So I think social media, all the channels, we need to get to a point where we're starting to kind of post less and it be sort of meaningful content about, right, what can I do to level up? What can I do as a sort of viewer to sort out my situation? Because we're hooked. A lot of us are hooked to that dopamine fix of going from reel to reel to reel or to scrolling. And it's an unhealthy association at the moment. Now going back to what you said, which is the sort of most underrated. Um, I believe sort of threads or the ability to just kind of take away the sort of content creation and get people to just talk, or even Substack. I don't know if
Yeah,
you've any use with Substack. Not everyone's a writer, not everyone feels comfortable, but actually you can really start to get to feel for a person with the kind of the words they write. And I think where we're using sort of certain platforms to maybe you don't need to kind of use AI to kind of create a sort of post. It's actually your sort of thoughts. You're treating it almost like a journal. People can start to see you and your reactions. And I think that's maybe threads and Substacks could offer that sort of, I'm not going to say that A word, just a glimpse into who you are as an individual. People are crying out for that sort of kind of I want some real content. Who are you? What are you doing? Or how are you going to help me? Like, how can I get to that point? Don't just give me like 6 ways to get to 8 figures or 7 figures or whatever it is. Give me the tangible stuff for me to be able to be a success in my own business or something like that.
yeah. Yeah, I've definitely tired of social media, and that's why I'm liking the podcast format. I'm subscribed to some people's Substacks. I'm unsubscribing for quite a lot of newsletters, but just keeping the ones that I like and enjoy reading. So yeah, I feel like there is a shift in marketing at the moment, and which is why when you have a someone who does strategic marketing, they can help you see that shift. And I think for me, it's like I always tie it back to living the life you want. So creating a business that serves you rather than the other way around. And I feel with marketing, even I allowed it to take over my life at points. And it's like, this is not why I left corporate. Um, and someone with more of a strategic background can be like, let's just do these things because actually this is what you like, what you're good at, which betrays you the best. And posting on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and Threads and TikTok and maybe isn't the way for you.
It's overwhelming. There's many platforms, and you took. Sorry, Debbie. You'd mentioned the bit of shift in marketing, and I think there is a shift in marketing, and I think it's a topic that I'd spoke about that I'm actually trying to get my head around. It's called social selling. I don't know if it's something you're familiar with, but it's the ability to be able to build a community, build an audience, but purposeful audience and people that you know you can help. And you got to ask yourself, how can I be of service to these clients rather than how can I make so much money? Because and I believe that the shift is the sort of towards the sort of social selling and kind of how can I help people? And I think those individuals that take on those values about actually I'm here to help rather than extort money and sell all these courses. It's like that's the shift. And there's some really good people out there to trying to kind of make a difference and wanting to help people.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Ashley. So I loved our chat and thank you for joining me today. If you're a business owner who is stuck or overwhelmed when it comes to marketing, I hope this has given you a bit of insight and a bit of clarity into what is possible. If you want to find out more about Ashley and what he's up to at Vaandi, I'll pop his details in the show notes. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe and tell a business friend because business should feel lighter when you've got the right people around you. So see you next time. Thank you, Ashley. Bye. Bye.